we should start EIB now. See, guys, EIB is the first kind of integrations that you would use, in any other organization. Now, why I said that this is the first type of integration that you are going to use. EIB has a lot of things, which no other integration can give it to you. So what is the specialty of EIB? EIB is called as Enterprise Interface Builder. Okay. Here we can use the report that we converted into web services as a source of data, and we can convert that and use it to send the data outside of the system. Okay. Now, before we get into the actual EIB, let me explain to you. There are multiple type of integrations. Okay. What are the other types of integrations? So I'll start from the beginning. So you have EIB inbound, you have got EIB outbound. Okay. Then we have core connector. So there, core connector is maximum used for outbound. You'll rarely see using it for inbound, but yeah, it is used for outbound. Then you have um, studio, right? So that's the fourth type of integration, studio. Now, studio, what happens is it's a plugin which is basically installed. Okay, a plugin which is basically installed on Eclipse. So when we talk about studio, right? So studio, basically what happens is it's a tool which is outside of the tenant. EIB core connector, whatever we are going to build, that will be inside the tenant, the Workday tenant. But when you use studio, right, it is a tool which is outside of the Workday tenant. You don't need the tenant directly, to use Workday Studio. So once that installation is done on Eclipse, you are good to basically start the development. So here, you will use just like pictorial representation, how you build the flow charts and everything, right? So you will put that as a flow chart, but in order to connect, in order to put the logics, you will have to write the code. And what code or languages are used in this? You have XML, XSLT, and a little bit of Java, so that you can make you can put the logics correctly. So that is how your studio works. And then we have um, SOAP API and REST API integrations, guys. SOAP API and REST API integrations, they are completely outside of Workday. Studio itself, at least you were able to connect, using the web services or token system, you were able to connect the system. But when you use SOAP and REST API, it is not even used in a tool. You can use Notepad to write your own code. So when I say Notepad, which means it's a completely hardcore programming. You may be aware about any particular coding language such as Java. Then how can you set up a code which will basically help you connect to the system? So that is where your SOAP API comes into picture, and similarly your REST API comes into picture. So these are the 6 types of integrations that we have, guys. Out of that, as I stated, 25% of the integrations in your day-to-day activity would be done through EIB. That is through EIB inbound or outbound, and 60 to 65% of the integration will be done by core connector. So that comes approximately 85 to 90%. Remaining 10%, which is very complex and which cannot be achieved through EIB and Core Connector. For those, you build studio integrations. And even if there are things which cannot be achieved through studio, then you will have SOAP and REST API. Okay. So all these things, I'm going to share a PPT with you. This PPT will contain all this information, and you will get along with that core connector documents and then calculated field documents, everything you're going to get. Okay. I mean, it was not uploaded yesterday, but today definitely it will be uploaded. Okay. So this is what I wanted to discuss. And now we are going directly into EIB, not the core connector. All right. Now the task to create the things, how do we actually create the integrations, right? So that's very easy. How? We'll type the task here, which is called as create EIB. Okay, so this is my task. And then you see, start creating your EIB by giving it a name and selecting its direction. Outbound EIBs export data from Workday to the external systems. Inbound EIBs import the data from external system to Workday. So this is the main. I am going to go ahead and build a EIB. So I'll say something like this. So what I'm doing is WDI1 underscore EIB underscore OP. I'm keeping such a name because I'll be able to remember, right? And I'm going to create an outbound EIB. Okay, so this is my outbound EIB. I'll go ahead and click on OK. So once I go ahead and click on OK, it will be more like a wizard. If you have installed a application, that okay, what you will do is you will click on next, next, and you will be able to move further, right? So I've got the name and the ID. So if you see, the name and the ID is almost the same. Why the name and the IDs is almost the same? Because I've kept the name such a way that it is very unique. And Workday has given this ID. We have not created it. But if you want, you can edit it. That is what you can do. But we don't need to edit. We're just trying to create it. So we'll keep it like the way it is. And then we have the option. We'll click on next. So this is a text box where what you can do is you can put something like this. This EIB helps us to transmit the data to a third party. Okay. Because it's outbound. Outbound, what does that mean? It will extract the data from Workday and send it to a third party. Okay. So this is how it works.
What is the use of this ID, Debasis?
ID is a unique, entity. So, for example, if I have to link something, okay, then this ID is going to help us.
Are we using that going forward in
No,
building?
we are not going to use it, but Workday provides a unique identification. Okay, that's the reason the ID is generated here for anything that you create. Does that make sense or no? It's not clear.
I mean, I understood that this ID was created by Workday, and to link something, it is used. And that linking, who is doing it? Are we doing it while developing this EIB, or something
No, no,
internally
no,
is
no,
happening?
no, no. It happens internally. We don't do it. And another thing is, This ID is a unique thing for Workday to keep it, internally safe. That's the only thing you can understand. Take it in that way. Because when we will be building the integration, nowhere we are going to use an ID. Okay, does that make sense?
Already we have a unique name, right? Why again unique ID?
This is Workday, how they want to build it. Okay, again, we are not controlling it because this field is not generated by us, right?
Okay.
All right. So the next thing is, how do you get that data? So this is where your source will come, that from where you're going to get the data. So this is outbound. So when there is any outbound integration, so what happens in outbound? Who can tell me?
We extract data from Workday and send it to downstream.
Not downstream. We send it outside of Workday.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you see, it says get data, and it is asking you what is the source of your data. Okay. Data source type. So there are two ways in which you can extract the data. And if you remember, I have explained it to you. One is called as web service and another is called as custom report. So here it is, web service and custom report. So I'll show you it with custom report because we have built an advanced report with web service. Inbound, I'll show you with web service, okay? Because there you can't use custom report. Now, any custom report will not work here. That means if I'm trying to use any other custom report, a simple report, a matrix report, or inbox search report, no, it will only be a report which has web service enabled, which has the RAS enabled. If you don't have that enabled, you will not be able to find that report. So what did we create? WDI1, right? Can you search it? So this is the report that we have, and with this code we have created multiple reports. We created simple also and the advanced also, but advanced with web services has only come here. If I'm trying to search, other reports would also come, right? But it is not coming. Why? Because here only that report can come where web services are enabled. Does that make sense to all of you? Or is there a confusion in this step?
Clear.
Yes, clear, right? Okay. Now we have selected the place from where we are going to get the data. Okay. Then what we'll do, we'll click on next. And then a transformation step will come. Now, what is this transformation? Transformation is very, very important part. Now, why do we say it is very, very important? Because what Workday does is internally, Workday converts this data that is there inside Workday into a more transferable form. Transferable form means in which form you want to send that data. It will be decided by Workday. We cannot go ahead and make anything here or make the changes here. So what will happen here, guys? We will have to select a way in which you want to transform. Okay. So if you see, there are multiple options you will get. Like it is custom report transformation, custom transformation, and new custom report transformation. So we have used a custom report. Now that custom report has never been used or has never been transformed earlier because this is the first time we are using it, right? We have just created it yesterday and today we are going to use it. Yes or no?
Yes.
Right? So we have never used that in any integration up till now. So for that purpose, we will use this option which says new custom report transformation. And once I select the new custom report transformation and I'll go ahead and click on next, then what will happen? It will convert that into the transferable form, or we will not be able to see what format it is because it is hidden. But yeah, we will get the transformed file. So I'll show it to you. Apart from that, these two options are there, right? Which says custom transformation and custom report transformation. Now, new custom report transformation basically helps us. New custom report transformation basically helps us to generate the transformation file for a new report which has never been transformed. When you talk about custom report transformation, which means there is already a file that is existing and we have used that in a previous integrations, or we have converted that or transformed that report so that you will not get this third option, which is new custom report transformation. Okay, then comes the option which says custom transformation. So here basically we can put our own code. Own code means, suppose I am extracting the data from a custom object. Okay, in that case I want to put my own XSLT. I can do that, but you will rarely see anybody doing that in EIB. Okay, because coding is generally not involved here, but Workday has given you that option. So what I'll do, I'll just use this option which says new custom report transformation, and as soon as I'll click on next, there will be a transformation file that will automatically be coming up here. Right now it is empty. Okay, so I'll go ahead and click on next. Okay, it goes to the delivery, but I'll go back and then you will see this option. See, this transformation is already done, and that new custom transformation file is gone. New custom report transformation option is gone. Now why it is gone? Can anybody tell me?
That's no more new. You already used it here.
Yeah, we have already generated a transformation of this particular report. So it gets now onto this option which says custom report transformation. And this file, which is the transformed file, is here. Okay, clear to everybody how the transformation works? Is there anybody who is not clear on this? Please tell me.
Can we see the custom one?
No, you can't. That is what I said, right? We don't know what is that format, and that's not accessible to us. We can view that.
No, I was saying that there is three option, right? So the second option, can we see the custom transformation here?
Okay, so if you put a custom transformation, you have to put your own code here. That's what I'm saying.
So we have to write the code outside and refer that file
Yes,
here?
yes.
Okay.
So you see,
Yeah.
you have your XSLT code here, right? So you can put that XSLT code. So you have to first upload it and then only it will come here.
Okay.
Okay. So now when I choose custom report transformation, right, I will be able to see that data automatically. I mean to this say this file comes here automatically. Clear?
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'll go ahead and click on next. Now you see, this is very important part, which is called as delivery. So up till now what we have done, we have put the general parts like your name and ID of the outbound EIB. So whenever we talk about outbound, which means it is going to extract the data from Workday and it is going to send to the third party. So first step, you have got the name. Second step, you have got the source from where I have to get that data, from where we will extract it. Then the third step is to transform. So convert that into a specific form that it can be easily transported on the web. That is the meaning of transformation. And now fourth step is to deliver. Where do you want to deliver the data? Now, here a lot of things depends upon your client or the customer or the vendor to whom you are sending the data. Why? Because they need to tell us where do they need the data, what kind of connections needs to be built, what is their server where we have to send the data. Are they using FTP server? Are they using SFTP? Are they using HTTP, or are they using Amazon services, right? So whatever they are using, and those options are already there. So if you look into this, it says delivery method. So here you see Amazon Simple Storage Service, AS2, email, FTP, FTP SSL, HTTP SSL, SFTP. Use existing delivery method and Workday attachment. So now what I'm trying to explain you here is to whom we are sending the data, because it is outbound EIB, correct? Outbound EIB itself means that I will be sending the data from Workday to any third party. Now that third party has to disclose these details. What kind of server connections they are using. If they are using Amazon Simple Storage, how many of you know about S3, Amazon S3 bucket? Do you have any idea? Have you ever heard about it, or have you ever used it? Anybody? S3, have you heard the name? Yes, no?
No.
No.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So only one person knows it. So do you want to tell about it? What exactly is S3 as you have used it?
Yeah, it's kind of a storage system where we can store our data,
Yeah.
and it has like it can be accessible through these keys and access ID and secrets. So
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. So let me add few things. Suppose one of your client or customer or vendor, whoever is requesting the data, they are using AWS. AWS is basically your Amazon Web Services. So in Amazon Web Service or AWS, the mechanism to store the data is basically called as S3, which is also called as Simple Storage Service. Okay, so that is provided by Amazon Web Services. Now, any data that you want to store, it will be dumped into S3 bucket. So why we call it as bucket? Because it contains a lot of information, and you can you can set it up in such a way that you can have lots of data in that. You can have, basically the organizations use S3 to dump their data. If they have to archive something, that also they will put it in S3. Okay, so what happens here? If your client or vendor or the customer to whom you have to send the data, if they are using Amazon Web Service, then you have to select this option, get the bucket ID. So bucket is something which they will know, we will not know about it. Okay, then once we have received that information, then we will come to know that in which area of the world their data center is located. So if you see, Amazon Web Services servers are located in different parts of the globe. So you have US city, Ohio, North Virginia, California, Oregon, right? Then if you talk about APAC, you have Mumbai, Osaka, Seoul, Singapore, Sydney, Tokyo. Then you have one in Canada, that is Central, right? Then China, Inzixia, Frankfurt in UK, and there is one in Beijing. Okay, so this is all Europe: Frankfurt, Ireland, London, Paris, Stockholm, and then one in Brazil. So why is this distributed in such a way? This is distributed in such a way because the organizations have to be compliant as well. Now, compliant means what? Please tell.
Yeah, so let's say that some organization is expecting us to store the data in their region, specific region only, because of GDPR or some sort of
Yes,
policy they have. So
correct.
then as per that, we have to select. So for the EU customer, we might have to choose one of the EU region. For
Mm,
US, we might have to choose the US East or some like their region. Let's say Indian government is saying no, our data cannot go outside, then we can choose the Mumbai region also.
correct. See, that is the most important part. So if you have to be a good or a compliant IT company, right? You have to follow the laws of the land. Laws of the land means wherever you're operating, your laws have to be followed. And as rightly stated, that if you are storing the data and the government is saying no, I cannot allow you to take the data of my citizens outside of my country. So in that case, you have to store the data in that country itself. And that's the reason you have multiple data centers all across the globe, so that their copy, whatever the data they are storing, that is not made. I mean, the copy is not made and it stores it in the same server. Although these all servers are interconnected, guys, you know, but you can't breach and try to get the data from one system to the other, because there are several checks, and firewalls are created in such a way that you will not be able to access those information, from any other country. So that's the reason the number of data centers and servers have increased tremendously. And to access it, you need to have what? Your access key ID and a secret access key. So all these things are provided by whom? When you take the subscription of AWS and particularly S3 bucket, you will get this from Amazon, and you will share with us, considering that you are the customer who is going to use the data, and I'm trying to send you that information through AWS and Workday. So that is how it is interconnected. Does that make sense, or no, it's not clear till now? Then you have AS2. So this is another protocol, guys. This is a little more secure. Why I'm saying it is more secure? Because if you see here, we have to actually put the endpoint. Now, do you all of you understand the meaning of endpoint? What is endpoint? Is there anybody who does not understand what is endpoint? Okay, considering that you all understand the endpoint, so whenever this AS2 is used by any of the customer, so they give us that AS2 address. AS2 address is basically your AS2 endpoint. Now, this endpoint tells us about the information. Now, what information? That where exactly I have to send the data. That is the endpoint. Because my source is Workday, my destination will be this endpoint if I'm using AS2. And then you have few IDs with which the data has to come. So it is like from ID, now from which you are sending the data, to ID. To ID is basically to which customer you are sending it. Then there is a public key for encryption, private key for signature, public key for SSL, and public key for SSL acceptance. Now, all these make the data so much encrypted that if you don't have these keys, you will not be able to decrypt the data and look at what data has come. And that's the reason I said that this is little more secure than the other integrations. Okay. But this is very rarely used. I mean, in my career, I have just seen one customer using it up till now, and that was a bank. Okay. And apart from that, I have never seen anybody else using it. So this is very rare. You will not even see that in your day-to-day activity. But yes, in case you get it, you should be aware, like, how exactly it works. Okay. So any questions, doubts on this AS2? Okay. Then I'll go to email. This is the most simple way of sending the data. What you need is two email address to whom you have to send the data. But the fact is, you are sending it through integrations. Integration means you're sending it through EIB here. So that email address will always remain same. Okay. And from email address, that is, see what happens is whenever you have integration system, right? So you generally don't use your personal or your corporate email ID here. There is an integration user which gets created. Okay. Integration user which gets created, and they have their email ID. So whenever you have such integrations where you actually need an ID, so that user, the integration user or the dummy user which gets created, that email IDs are used everywhere because that is configured to run all your integrations. Okay. Does that make sense to all of you?
Yes. So will it populate automatically or do we have to put in?
No, we have to put in. So from email address, we have to put in here. It's not like it will automatically pop up. Okay. So two is your customer, then CC, BCC, and then from, right? And you have to put the subject. But once you have done it, like, you need to configure it only once. After that, this integration, you can schedule it. It will keep on running and, it will keep on using that link. You don't have to worry about that. So for the first time, you have to do it. Next time onwards, it will not ask you to perform any steps. Okay. So this is your email. Now, how many of you actually understands FTP, SFTP, FTP, SSL? Have you used this before? Anybody?
Yeah.
FTP.
Yes.
So FTP, SFTP, these are the most common integrations path that you will get. Why? Because this is very easy to build, not a very high secure option, but it has, it is available in a very low price. Okay, this kind of addresses are available in a very low price, and this is the most preferred type of connections. Okay, so it is called as file transfer protocol, and here you see it will ask you for the FTP address. So how exactly you have to type in, you know how exactly you want to connect. Okay, so the FTP address starts with FTP. So here you see it will be in this format: FTP colon forward slash forward slash, the XXX. So basically here you have to put either the IP addresses, or you have to put the name of the FTP server, right? So that is where it becomes very much important. So let me search it now. Otherwise, it is gone. Okay, I made a mistake. So this is the one, right? So I will go ahead and click on actions, go to enterprise interface and edit. because this is not completed yet. We have to complete the delivery of it. Okay. Okay. So we were talking about FTP. So FTP, when we use it, right, you have to put that address in such a way that you have that as a prefix like FTP colon / and the address of it. And then you have the directory. Directory basically tells you that it's a kind of a folder where your data is going to be stored. If you're putting it into like C drive, D drive, whatever it is, you have to tell it. And the path has to be put here. That is the meaning of your directory. And with that, you would also need a username and password. Now, why do you need a username and password? Can anybody tell me?
Authenticate.
Yeah. So you are authenticating on a third party. You're trying to authenticate yourself on the third party system, because when you're going to deliver the data, which means you have to enter their premise, which means your network and everything you will be able to enter. And if you don't have a valid username and password, your system, the other system, the FTP system, would not allow you to enter and it will kick you out. Okay. So for that purpose, user ID and password is required. So that is how FTP works. Any questions on this? Yes, no?
We don't provide the port, it just if we prefix it with
Yeah,
FTP work.
FTP, and then you have the address here.
Okay.
That's it. And then comes FTP SSL. So SSL basically stands for secure socket layer, guys. So whenever you have any network, uh, where integration is used and you're using SSL connection, SSL basically means it's a secure connection. There is already a username and password associated with that earlier with the FTP, right? But here the additional layer of security is added through certificates. Do you know what is a certificate? How exactly it is used? Anybody?
Yeah.
Okay. Apart from you, Jitendra, is there anybody who is knowing
No
about
idea
this?
what it is.
No.
No idea. Okay. Okay. So guys, what happens when you are using any connections, or you're building any connections to make it secure? A lot of providers, what they do is they add a extra secure layer which is called as SSL. So what exactly is this? It is nothing but a simple certificate. Certificate basically means uh it's something that will convert the data into a particular format, and once that connection is reaching the destination, the job of that certificate is to make sure that the connection between the two endpoints are secure. If it is not secure, what will happen? It will start giving you an notification that your connection is not secure. So that you will see here also. Let me show it to you. So here you see it is HTTPS, right? S here stands for secure socket layer, SSL. So when I click on this, see, this says connection is secure. Why it is saying connection is secure? Because there is a certificate which is valid. So this kind of certificate gets attached. So here you see, you have workday.com organization. This was issued to Workday. Who was that? So there is a provider. So that is called as GeoTrust TLS RSA. So what they do is they are the certificate provider. They are called as I forgot the actual terminology right now, but don't worry, I'll tell it to you. So they will, yeah, so they are the global certificate providers. Okay. And in that case, what they do, whenever you have to build certain kind of connections and you want to make it secure, then you have to get the certification from them. And they are the global providers. They can provide it to anybody. You just have to pay a fee and you'll get the request. And the certificate, once you have it, it becomes very difficult for anybody to make the changes. Why? Because they encrypt the data using keys like SHA-1 and SHA-2 256. So if you see, there is a expiry date also. So June 2023 to July 2021, 2024. Okay. So each year this has to be what? Revalidated. Okay. So that the connections does not fail. So that is how exactly it works. So there are two types of SSL in FTP: implicit SSL and explicit SSL. Although these things have nothing to do with Workday, but I'm just trying to give you an additional knowledge. So in this, how exactly it works? So I'll tell you: FTPSI colon forward slash forward slash. This is how your address will be. See, FTPSI or FTPSE, and then you have your IP addresses or whatever it is. Generally, it is your IP address. Okay. So you can use either SI or SE. It does not matter. But when you use this, make sure you have a certificate in place. Otherwise, you can't do that. Okay. And again, you have the user ID and password. That is mandatory. Okay. So is that clear? Uh, FTP, SSL, or no, it's not clear. You have not understood it.
Is there a place where we import the certificate?
No, we don't do that here. Because see, this address is not our address, right? This is a third party address.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes in some system I have seen that if you are calling to, of course, that was a part of HTTPS, not FTPS.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking if we have to do it here also. Okay.
No, that's not required. Okay. So next is your HTTPS, right? So in this section, if you see, right, it's asking you for a HTTP address. So for example, if I put this address, if you see, and put it here, it will not give me any error. Why? Because it has this HTTPS associated with it. Okay. And then there are multiple ways of authentication. So here you see web service invocation type. So I've got basic authentication, no security, OAuth 2.0, web service, user ID, password. Now OAuth 2.0 was not there before. It has recently been added in the last release. Okay. So when you say basic authentication, what happens here? The user ID and password you have to put. Okay. If it is no security, so it is just that certificate which is basically uh, you know putting the effort of securing your data. Even your username and password is not mandatory. Then you have OAuth 2.0. Now this is called as open authentication, guys. So when you have OAuth 2.0, there is a OAuth provider. Okay. So what is this OAuth provider going to do? They are going to provide you access token, refresh token URL, client ID, and client secret. Now, what are these? So when I talk about access token, right? Access token basically helps you uh, connecting to the third party by generating some unique number, alphabets. It's a combination of that. So OAuth 2.0 is basically called as open authentication. But when you have this OAuth 2.0, which is open authentication, there are few things, if you see, all of them are mandatory. So whenever you have to use OAuth 2.0, there is a OAuth provider. Now, when I say OAuth provider, which means um, there is one connection that they have to tell you that what is going to be your access token, because this access token can change also. It is not that it will always remain the same. And then you see this refresh token. Refresh token basically helps you get the fresh access token. Then from where this refresh token will come, this is where your URL has to be put. Then you have your client ID and client secret. That is all, more like a uh, links. So these are more like a website address that you have to put here. Client access, sorry, client ID, client secret. So these are basically your alphanumeric numbers. And then in the token URL, you have to give us a URL where you can generate the refresher URL. Okay, refresh token. So these things make it very complex, make it very secure, but you will hardly see anybody using it. But Workday has given the facility. If you want, you can. Then you have web service, user ID, and
So
password. Now this is more.
question here.
So in this, when you use web service security, user ID, and password, it just has a username and password to attach to that. That's it. This is simple like using any FTP or HTTP. Nothing is that different. Problem. So yes. So now we are going into the web service. Oh, okay. That also we have discussed, right? So this was about HTTP. Then comes SFTP. SFTP and FTP almost same. But what is their difference is the authentication method. So here also you will see the address is put in such a way like SFTP, and then you have the IP addresses and everything like this. So here you see SFTP colon. This is how exactly it works. And then you have authentication method. So there are two ways: SSH, dual, and username and password. So if you have dual authentication, right? So here you have the user ID, password, verify password, and then this is the one which needs to be uploaded, SSH authentication key pair. So this will be generated here. So whatever it is, you will have to generate. This is where this needs to be uploaded into Workday system. It will not be something that you will get it directly. You will have to ask it from the client only. Then if you're using just the SSH, so for that you need the user ID and that key pair, nothing more. And if you're using username and password, then in that case SSH is gone. Just the user ID and password is required, right? Is SFTP also clear to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. Then you see use existing delivery method. Now, what does that mean? So suppose we already have a integration already built within Workday, okay, and that is using any existing protocol. I can actually use them so that I don't have to rebuild the connections again and again. Suppose I already had one connection which was using S3 or AWS. So again, I can get in and use that. See that? I can go ahead and use that connection. So if I use it, I don't have to build that connections again and again. So that is the use of using the existing delivery method. Okay. So I'm not going to use it at the moment, but I'm going to use this option which says Workday attachment. Now, why I'm using Workday attachment? The reason is, okay, so I'll just give the file name and I am getting the data in the form of CSV, because if it comes in any other form, it would not be easy for us to understand. So I'll try to get it in the CSV. That's the reason I have specifically mentioned the extension .csv. Okay. So why I'm using Workday attachment? The reason is when I run the integration, when I actually run the integration, I don't have a real-time system where I can send the data and see whether it has reached or not. But to test it, Workday has given this option to use Workday attachment, that you run the integration and get the output here itself, and you will see what data you are getting. So for that purpose, I'll go ahead and click on next and then click on OK. So my mechanism is completed. So first is your name ID, then you have the get data from where you are getting the data, then you have the transformation, then you have the delivery. So once this is done, I'll go ahead and click on OK. All right, then what do you have? We go ahead and get into the integration system. We click on actions and then we go to integration and we launch it. So here you see integration, organization, and run frequency. I'll go ahead and click on OK. So it will ask me, what is the file name? You want to keep it same? Yes. Document retention policy? Yes. So document retention basically means that when you run the integration, for how many days you want to keep this document. So I have kept 1 day, and the maximum you can keep it is like 6 months, that particular file. Okay. So what will happen? This will complete and it will give me an output file here. So right now it is still processing. It got completed. Now I've got the output file. So here you see I got result.csv. So if I click on it, I'll get download it. So by default, it opens in RTF because here it has been set it up in that way. So what I'll do, I'll go ahead and click on open with Excel. So you see, this is what I am getting, and this is what you have in your report, right? Does that make sense?
Right.
This is how your data is actually sent into the third-party system, guys. And now you see, it's very easy. If you have all the information details of the client, this is the most useful integration. The only drawback with this is you can only use one data source at one time, which means I can only have either a web service or a custom report, and that data is going all at once. But suppose if I have to choose the data from multiple places, I can't do that. That's the only drawback of EIB. Otherwise, this is the most useful, the most easiest way of building an integration. And you see, I'm not used code anywhere, right? Does that make sense, guys?
Web
Okay.
service or custom report, you said, no, there was this. So the custom report, when it is web service enabled, that is only web service, right?
Correct. That report becomes a web service.
And where do we specify the retention policy?
In the integration, okay, I'll go back. See, okay, this is the process. I'll go back to the, okay, this is the one, view integration system, right? So I'll
Yeah.
edit it and I'll show it. I thought I already did. See, that is in the delivery section.
Oh,
Document retention policies. So right now I've selected one. Ideally, it is maximum is 180. So let's say I want to put it more like 181. See, the field document retention policy must have a value between 1 to 180. It cannot go
oh,
beyond 180 days.
okay.
But I'll keep it 1 because this is a practice standard. I cannot go ahead and store it for permanently. Okay, so this is how your EIB works, guys.
Is there any retry mechanism with one?
Yes, retry mechanism is how you can do it is you can keep on scheduling. But if it fails, just imagine if it fails. So what will happen is you will have to manually do it, or there's option in this. It says minute reoccurrence. So you can set this up. So every minute it will try to send the data to the third party. So this is the only way by which you can retry. Otherwise, there is no other option.
Okay.
And if it fails, you will get a notification here in this bell icon that the integration that is running is not completed or has completed with this errors, and this is how exactly it will look like.
Can we customize this notification?
Yes, you can customize it.
How?
There is an option. I will let you know. Basically, in EIB, you may not be able to do, but yeah, in core connectors, you can still do that.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So this is what we have in the outbound EIB. We have inbound EIB still pending. So if outbound is clear, right? Inbound is very easy. Inbound, you will understand it just like that. Okay.